The drone caught her just as she lit the match. One hand holding a gas can. The other, a Starbucks cup. The flames kissed the edge of my shed like it owed them money. I didn't move. Didn't panic. Just stood there in my boxers holding a garden hose, wondering. Is this arson? Or just another HOA initiative? Behind her, 3 men in reflective vests were crouched like they were about to breach a meth lab, not my backyard. Boom. Sirens. Lights. One guy tripped over my lawn gnome and screamed like he'd been shot. I stayed calm. Sipped coffee. Should I call the cops, or just hit record again? Rewind. Back to the flyer. The laminated flyer nailed to my mailbox with a 6-inch construction nail and a warning. You are hereby declared NON compliant. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button if you've ever been fined for something stupid. Comment below, what's the wildest thing your HOA has ever done? Smash that like if you think flamingos should be legally recognized as emotional support animals. You ever feel a piece of paper actively judging you? Because that's what it felt like when I opened my mailbox and saw that envelope. White. Glossy. Heavy like a wedding invite. Except instead of love and champagne, it reeked of passive aggression and the distant sound of someone being fined for. Unauthorized mailbox font. Gold seal. Embossed. It said, Oak Hollow Homeowners Association, Notice of Noncompliance. I knew right then I'd messed up. Not by actually doing anything wrong. Oh no. My mistake was moving here in the first place. Let me back up. I'm Jake Carter, 42, a contractor by trade, divorced, mildly bitter but not enough for therapy. I bought this house 6 months ago after the whole my wife found herself in Bali with her yoga instructor saga. I was ready for peace. A little yard, a porch swing, a grill, maybe a dog someday. Oak Hollow was supposed to be safe. A little cul-de-sac paradise with retired couples, kids on scooters, and neighborhood potlucks where someone always brings too much pasta salad. I just wanted quiet. But I didn't know about Linda Harper. HOA president. 5 feet 4 inches of unholy power wrapped in pastel cardigans. She doesn't walk, she glides. Clipboard always in hand, like it's surgically attached. I swear she was born in a meeting. The letter she sent me? Said I violated Article 7, Section B, Subclause 12 of the HOA Handbook. My crime? I painted my garden shed the wrong color. Apparently mocha bark was approved. But I'd used chestnut drift. And don't get it twisted, this wasn't just a friendly note. It came with a $125 fine and a threat of further consequences. I stood in the driveway holding that letter, just blinking. My shed was the exact color of dirt. No one could even see it unless they were creeping behind my bushes, which, as it turns out, Linda very much was. I figured it was a fluke. Maybe she was just trying to make a name for herself in the HOA newsletter. But then came the next letter. Violation, inadequate lawn edge symmetry. I had a bald patch the size of a dinner plate on the left corner of my lawn. My dog probably peed there too much. Sue me. Then came the third. Unauthorized exterior wind instrument. My wind chimes. Made of driftwood and shells. Bought in Key West. Sentimental. Peaceful. Linda's verdict? Audibly disruptive. She even provided a decibel rating. How the hell did she measure that? By now, my blood pressure was reaching levels that should come with a free defibrillator. But instead of flipping out, I decided to try reason. Because I'm Jake Carter. I use logic. Tools. Diplomacy. So I walked down to her house one Sunday morning, coffee in hand, wearing my best. I'm a reasonable man. Flannel. Her front yard looked like Martha Stewart had personally landscaped it. Bushes trimmed into perfect domes. A birdbath that probably had a security camera inside it. She answered the door already holding her clipboard. Like she knew. Like she smelled dissent. Oh, Mr. Carter, she said. Hear about your violations? I resisted the urge to choke on my coffee. Look, I said. Can we just talk about this? I didn't realize the HOA rules were this intense. I mean, it's just a shed. She smiled like I just told her I don't separate recycling. The rules are the rules, she chirped. You agreed to them when you moved in. No, I said. I specifically bought this property because it was outside the HOA boundary. My realtor confirmed it. Her smile got thinner than her tolerance for non-organic lawn fertilizer. Well, Oak Hollow recently passed a resolution to include adjacent properties into the community association via a process called visual influence annexation. I blinked. I'm sorry, visual influence? She pointed at my house with her pen like it had personally insulted her garden gnome. Your property is visible from the cul-de-sac. It affects the cohesion of our community aesthetic. Therefore, it falls under HOA jurisdiction. Oh no. I knew what I was dealing with now. This wasn't just a bad neighbor. This was a dictator in beige capri pants. I walked away without saying another word, mostly because my therapist always said to count to 10 when I felt like slapping someone with a clipboard. But that night, I saw something I'll never forget. Around 11:30 p.m., I was watching TV, half asleep, when motion lights went off in my backyard. I looked out the window and saw two figures in matching vests, reflective ones with OHCP printed on the back. Oak Hollow Compliance Patrol. I watched them with binoculars. They were measuring my fence. With a laser. I'm not making this up. They planted a little flag in the grass and left. Next morning? New letter. Violation. Fence exceeds height limit by 2.3 inches. Fine, $175. Note, immediate correction required or legal proceedings may begin. That was the moment I knew. Linda wasn't going to stop. Not until she broke me. Not until I either left or snapped. Well, she wasn't ready for what came next. Because you can find me. You can measure my grass. You can even insult my wind chimes. But you come for my freedom? I build back. And Linda? She was about to learn that I don't just fix houses. I build war zones. Let me tell you something about a man who's just lost his wind chimes, 3 hours of sleep, and 1/10 of his sanity to HOA fines. He's not stable. He's not rational. He's resourceful. So when I got that last letter, the one about my fence being 2.3 inches too high and a threat to community balance, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even call Linda to scream into her Bluetooth headset. No. I built a turret. Okay, fine, not an actual turret. Not one with arrows and boiling oil. But I started sketching. I sat down with a beer, a rage-powered internet connection, and a YouTube playlist of siege weaponry. Because if Linda wanted a war, she was going to get theater. And the best part? It was all going to be technically legal. You see, I read every line of that HOA handbook. Took notes. Annotated. Made diagrams. By the time I was done, I knew the rules better than Linda did. And that's when I found the loophole. Temporary security installations under 7 days in duration are not subject to permanent structure guidelines. Boom. All I needed was something temporary that made a statement. That's how the Drawbridge project was born. But before that, I had to deal with the latest escalation, Linda's patrol squad. Because yes, apparently Oak Hollow had one now. 3 dudes in matching polos and bike helmets, riding around on Segways with laminated badges clipped to their belts like they were extras in a straight-to-DVD Mall Cop 3, Suburban Siege. They stopped outside my property every day. Took photos. One even measured my trash bins from the sidewalk. The other day, they left a note that said, and I quote, "Refuse receptacles not aligned with HOA-specified parallel axis." Parallel axis. I was one citation away from a full-blown aneurysm. So I stopped trying to reason. I went full MacGyver meets Home Depot. First thing I did? Dug a trench. Not a cute little gardening trench. I mean a 4-foot deep, 6-foot wide moat around the front of my property line. I called it landscaping. The HOA called it threatening architecture. My contractor buddy Frank helped me out, mostly because he thought I'd lost my mind and didn't want to miss the show. He brought over a mini excavator, and by sundown, my yard looked like I was prepping for a zombie apocalypse. I even put up a sign. Private property, under construction. For HOA safety, do not approach. The next morning, I got a knock. It was Linda, of course, wearing her tactical pearls and a fuchsia blazer that could stop traffic. Behind her were the HOA goons with their clipboards and dumb grins. "You've created a hostile environment," she snapped. "I call it a freedom moat," I replied, sipping my coffee. "This is excessive. And unsightly. It violates the spirit of our community." "Linda," I said, "so did the Great Depression. But we got through it." She handed me a new letter. "Notice of emergency compliance breach. $450 fine. Violation, subversive landscaping." Yes. That was a real phrase. I asked her, "Where's that in the handbook?" She pointed to a stapled addendum labeled Amendment 6, pending approval. Pending. They were fining me over a rule that hadn't even passed yet. I nearly spit out my coffee. That's when I knew I needed to go further. I built the drawbridge. No joke. Wood planks, pulleys, the works. I even put little torches on either side. Called it rustic security enhancement. Took photos of every step. Logged every material. Made sure it all fit the temporary installation clause. Hell, I even built a remote system so I could raise and lower it from my porch. Because why not? And the moment I lifted that drawbridge for the first time, Linda came running. Like actually running. Clutching papers in her hand, yelling something about emergency hearings and intent to report. She stood on the other side of the trench, fuming, as I stood on my porch, holding a glass of lemonade like a medieval warlord. "You're destroying the peace of this neighborhood," she yelled. "By building a bridge? A hostile bridge!" I waved. "Tell that to the bylaws, Linda." But it didn't end there. That night I saw lights outside. I peeked through the blinds. Linda, with a flashlight, crawling along the trench line, whispering into a walkie-talkie like she was conducting an HOA SEAL team op. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just petty. This was delusion on steroids. And I was winning. But victory? That makes people desperate. And desperate people, especially ones named Linda, get dangerous. There's a moment in every great war when things go from mildly inconvenient to biblically stupid. For me, that moment came when I found the flamingos. 14 of them. Each one stabbed into my front lawn like a pink plastic middle finger. Now, to the untrained eye, this looked like a harmless prank. Some cheap joke from bored neighbors or rebellious teenagers. But I knew better. This was a message. Because Linda Harper hated flamingos. Absolutely despised them. She once got a guy evicted 2 streets over for having a flamingo mailbox. Said it undermined the solemnity of the Oak Hollow aesthetic. Solemnity. Of a suburb where kids sell lemonade for $9 and someone once called 911 over a suspicious garden gnome. I knew right then this was covert HOA psyops. But that wasn't the worst part. Each flamingo had a little laminated tag around its neck. They read, "Jake Carter, serial violator. Article 8 enforcement pending." Laminated. Color-coded. Zip-tied. Linda had gone full Cold War on me. I stood there on my lawn at 6:45 a.m. in pajama pants and Crocs, holding a cup of gas station coffee and staring at 14 pink birds of shame while the sprinklers went off like sad applause. That's when old Mrs. Dobbins walked by with her Pomeranian. She stopped, looked at the display, and nodded solemnly. "She's done this before, you know," she said. "Flamingos are her signature." "Like a serial killer?" "No," she said. "Worse. HOA president." By 8 a.m., the entire cul-de-sac had seen them. Some folks laughed. Some looked away like I had a contagious fungus. One dad actually took a picture and whispered, "Legend," under his breath before speed walking his kid to the minivan. And I? I didn't get mad. I got strategic. If Linda wanted to turn this into an HOA-themed episode of Game of Thrones, I was happy to play. So I started Operation Flamingo. Step 1: Retaliation. I went online and ordered 100 flamingos. Not the cheap ones either, these were deluxe, posable, full-color models. Some had top hats. One played a ukulele. They arrived in 7 oversized boxes that the FedEx guy wheeled up to my porch with a haunted expression. Step 2: Installation. Overnight, I turned my entire front yard into a flamingo protest installation. Picture it. A giant banner reading, "Property of the Free Aviary Republic." Flamingos arranged in military formation. One standing on a little cardboard tank I spray-painted with "Article this, Linda." Another on my roof with a mini flag that said, "Resist." I even gave them names. Linda Jr., Bylaw Bob, Decibel Dan, Claus the Destroyer. It was beautiful. It was absurd. It was art. Next morning? Silence. No patrol. No Linda. No new finds. Just one quiet HOA group chat message I got forwarded anonymously. Subject has escalated. Recommend Tier 3 measures. Begin documentation. Tier 3. I didn't even know there was a Tier 3. But I was about to find out. Because that night, around 2:30 a.m., I heard it. Buzzing. Faint. High-pitched. Mechanical. I opened the window and saw a little black dot floating above my backyard. A drone. They sent a drone. I grabbed my binoculars, and sure enough, it had a tiny Oak Hollow HOA sticker on it. These people had an aerial division. I did what any rational man in pajama pants could do. I hit it with the garden hose. The drone spun, sputtered, and crashed directly into my shed, the infamous chestnut drift violation, and got lodged between the shingles. Victory? Not quite. Because 12 hours later, I got a visit. 2 men. Matching shirts. Sunglasses. Clipboards. Again. They said they were part of the Oak Hollow Enforcement Observation Team. Which sounds a lot like something Stalin made up on a slow Tuesday. "We're here to assess unauthorized decorative displays," one of them said, eyeing my flamingos like they were contraband. I gestured to the sign in the yard. "Technically," I said, "this is a cultural installation. A protest art piece. We've received noise complaints," he said. "From birds that don't make sound?" "The implied noise," he replied. I almost passed out from disbelief. Then the other guy said, "Sir, we're going to have to enter your property and remove all unapproved fixtures." That's when I pulled out my phone and hit play. The speakers hidden behind the flamingos lit up with Ride of the Valkyries at full volume. I yelled over the music, "This property is under flamingo sovereignty. Any incursion will be considered an act of HOA aggression." They left. Ran, actually. Which, honestly, was the correct move. But I knew Linda wasn't done. People like her, they don't stop. They escalate. Sure enough, that night I found a warning zip tied to my door. Final notice: failure to remove unauthorized displays will result in emergency intervention. Intervention. She made it sound like I was hoarding squirrels. So I went to the garage. Sat down. And started drawing. Not plans. Not letters. Schematics. Because if Linda wanted war, she was about to meet the HOA version of the Trojan horse. And this one? It squawked. Let me paint the scene for you. It's 5:12 a.m. The sky is still bleeding purple over the cul-de-sac. The dew is thick, the air is humid, and I, Jake Carter, am standing shirtless in pajama pants, holding a mug that says, "Don't tread on me or my lawn," watching Linda Harper and her private HOA patrol assemble across the street like they're reenacting D-Day but with clipboards. There were 5 of them. 4 men, 1 woman, all in matching khaki vests, HOA logos stitched like little stormtrooper patches. One had a megaphone. Another held what looked suspiciously like a laser level and a Bible. I swear I'm not making this up. Behind them, parked at a dramatic angle, was Linda's SUV, its license plate reading Byla 1. That woman had a vanity plate. That says everything. At precisely 5:15 a.m., the man with the megaphone stepped forward and shouted, "Jake Carter, resident of 243 Oak Hollow Drive, you are in direct violation of Articles 4A, 6C, 9G, and 11-Phoenix. Phoenix? Linda stepped up beside him, wearing a visor and a windbreaker that probably cost more than my truck. She took the megaphone and said, with all the grace of a discount dictator, "This is your final warning. Remove the flamingos. Disassemble the drawbridge. Repaint your shed. Or we will commence intervention." I took a long sip of coffee, put the mug down, and calmly pulled a rope. The drawbridge lowered. But not like before. Oh no, I had upgraded. Now it creaked open to reveal a line of cardboard flamingos, each wearing a laminated HOA citation on their necks and one holding a tiny white flag with "Come and get it" in red Sharpie. Linda's face tightened like she'd just bitten into a lemon wearing Crocs. That's when I activated Phase 2 of the plan. You see, I had wired my yard with motion-triggered speakers. Took me 2 nights and 6 beers to get them working. So when the HOA patrol took a step toward my property line, the yard exploded with sound. Musical note. The Star-Spangled Banner. Followed immediately by a voice that said, "You are trespassing. The flamingos are armed. Turn back now." 2 patrol members immediately peeled off. One pretended to check their watch and said, "Oh man, I forgot. I have to be literally anywhere else." The woman clutched her clipboard like a shield and shouted, "This is harassment." Linda stood firm. "This is insubordination. You're tearing this neighborhood apart." I stepped forward, hands in the air like a hostage negotiator. "Linda, this neighborhood was already torn apart. I just gave it a flag and a soundtrack." Then she pulled out her final weapon, a folder labeled Emergency Order of Forced Compliance, HOA Tier 5 Authorization. Tier 5. Inside was a document, notarized, color-printed, and watermarked with what looked like an eagle screaming. "I have here the legal right," she said triumphantly, "to remove all non-compliant structures and decor from your property under Emergency Code 7.3. I squinted at it. "Did you type this in Comic Sans?" "It's official. It says compliant with a Y dot. It's binding. It's signed by you, and also you again, under witness." That's when I heard the crunch of gravel. We all turned. Sheriff Daniels. God bless that man's dusty Ford Explorer and permanent frown. He pulled up slowly, lights off, chewing sunflower seeds like he was paid by the shell. He got out. "Linda," he said flatly. "What the hell now?" "Sheriff, thank God," Linda snapped. "This man is resisting the community mandate. He's created a hostile territory. He's violating at least 7 subsections." Sheriff Daniels looked at me. I waved. He looked at the flamingos. One was spinning slowly in the breeze with a glittery cowboy hat. He sighed, long and hard. "Linda," he said, "didn't we talk about this after the drone thing?" She puffed up. "This is bigger than drones. This is an insurrection." "No," he said. "This is Tuesday. And you're trespassing." "Sheriff," she shrieked. "This man is dismantling the social order." He spat a sunflower seed. "You laminated a fake court order and tried to fine a guy for wind chimes. I think the social order's doing fine." Then he turned to me. "Jake? Yeah? You have anything illegal going on here?" I shrugged. "Just freedom, sir." He nodded. "That's what I figured." And then he turned to the HOA patrol and said the best 6 words I've ever heard in my life. "Y'all need to get off his lawn." And they did. All of them. Even Linda, though she walked backwards like she was expecting me to throw a spear. When they were gone, I looked at the damage. Trampled grass. Angry flamingos. A partially broken speaker. But the bridge still stood. And in the morning, you know what I found? No new fines. No drones. No zip-tied notices. Just a single lawn flamingo, wearing a tiny crown. I stood there barefoot, coffee in hand, looking out over my ridiculous kingdom. And for once? Silence. Well, until the letter came. It started, as most acts of HOA terrorism do, with a certified letter. Delivered by a man in khakis who wouldn't meet my eyes. He held it out like it was radioactive. Jake Carter? Unfortunately. Sign here. Good luck, man. Inside the envelope? A lawsuit. Filed in real court. Stamped. Sealed. With a docket number and everything. Linda went nuclear. Oak Hollow Homeowners Association versus Jake Carter. Charges included: willful disregard of community bylaws, unauthorized construction of a moat-like deterrent, use of ornamental poultry as protest tools, inciting community disruption, and my personal favorite, establishing an independent micronation within HOA boundaries. Linda accused me of creating a rogue state. I laughed so hard I choked down my cereal. But this was serious. Court date, Friday at 10 a.m. Location, Oak Hollow Community Center, because of course they converted the gym into a civic chamber. So I prepared. I gathered every document. Every laminated violation. Every fake fine. Photos of the drone. Video of the Segway patrol. Even the clip from Sheriff Daniels telling them to get off my damn lawn. I organized it all into a binder titled Exhibit A, When HOA Goes Full Cult. And I showed up to court in a suit. Which for me means clean jeans, a tucked-in shirt, and a flamingo lapel pin. Linda? She came in wearing a full pantsuit, white, like some unholy hybrid of Martha Stewart and Napoleon. Her entourage carried clipboards. Her lawyer looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days. Judge was a real one. Nameplate said, Honorable Judge Mabel Gordon. Late 60s. Tight bun. Glasses on a chain. The kind of woman who could silence a biker bar with one. Excuse me. The hearing began. Linda's lawyer went first. Painted me as a disruptive, defiant rogue element. Said I threatened the sanctity of Oak Hollow. Called my drawbridge a symbol of suburban anarchy. Claimed my flamingos incited anxiety and division among vulnerable homeowners. He actually said that with a straight face. Then it was my turn. I stood up. Held up a flamingo with a citation zip-tied to its neck. The HOA did this, I said. Then I played the video of Linda's fake drone patrol. Then Sheriff Daniels' clip. Then I dropped the binder on the table like I was submitting classified documents to Congress. The room went silent. Judge Gordon stared at me. Then at Linda. You issued these fines without legal authority? They were guidelines, Your Honor. You zip-tied warning notices to his shed? It was educational messaging. You filed an official document accusing him of creating an independent nation? Linda straightened her spine. Oak Hollow must protect its integrity. Judge Gordon blinked. Once. Slowly. Then said, Let me get this straight. You filed a lawsuit against a man for building a drawbridge on his own property after you sent armed Segway patrols and a surveillance drone into his backyard? Linda's jaw clenched. Yes. The judge leaned back. Exhaled deeply. Case dismissed. Linda stood up like she was about to protest, and that's when Judge Gordon dropped the hammer. And I will be referring this matter to the county attorney's office for review of potential harassment, false claims, and impersonation of legal authority. Linda sat down. Hard. I didn't gloat. I just looked at her. She didn't meet my eyes. Outside, the air smelled better. Like smoke had cleared. Like HOA tyranny had taken a hit it wouldn't recover from. And word got around. Fast. Neighbors who'd stayed silent started waving again. Someone put a pink flamingo in their yard. Then another. By Sunday, half the street looked like a Floridian uprising. Even old Mr. Dorn, who hadn't left his recliner since '98, put a tiny one in his window. And Linda? She resigned. Quietly. Health reasons. She moved 2 weeks later. Rumor is she tried to join another HOA in Florida. It didn't work out. Apparently someone forwarded them the drone footage. As for me, I kept the flamingos. Built them a permanent perch. Planted wildflowers around the moat. Upgraded the drawbridge with LED lights and motion sensors. Now it plays Ride of the Valkyries when the mailman comes. The neighborhood? Calmer. Kinder. And a hell of a lot more pink. They still talk about me. Jake Carter. The guy who took on the HOA and won. But all I did was defend what was mine. With a little bit of sarcasm. And a whole lot of flamingos. If you're still here, you're either a rebel or someone who's been burned by a clipboard. Drop a comment with your favorite part, the drawbridge, the drone, or the flamingo uprising. And don't forget to subscribe, because part 2 is where I build a moat. Like the video if you trust flamingos more than your HOA board.